Carina, Alex. Hey, congratulations on your
Fun.
documentary, We Can Be Heroes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you for speaking to us. And more of a congratulations. It's being showcased at South by Southwest. How do you guys feel about that?
We are so over the moon excited. I think, yeah, we've just been working on this for the last few years, so it feels really good to have to get to know the camp and the kids and just really, yeah, get to know all these really cool stories.
And South by Southwest is like perfect because they celebrate all the nerdy things that we're into. They premiered Dungeons and Dragons last year. Like it's a lot of the same Venn diagram of things that the movie covers, I think are what people there are really excited about. So it seems like the perfect place to premiere.
Most excellent. So what sparked you guys to do this documentary in the first place?
Yeah, so I actually found out about the camp because a really good friend of mine went there. And she was just, before I even knew that, she was just one of the most fearless, uninhibited people I had ever met. And I used to ask her, like, how did you get this way? And she would talk about this LARPing camp and just being able to see the real effect that this camp had on her throughout her life and opening her up and helping her work through things in her teenage years. It was just so clear that a documentary needed to be made about this.
Now, before we proceed, a lot of people don't know what LARPing actually is, and how do you folks actually describe it? And I know LARPing stands for what? Live action role play.
Yeah. It's it starts for live action role play. And LARPing is essentially a role-playing interactive game where people dress up in costumes, use props, and sort of I love your cat there. Uh, 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 yeah, play in a fantastical world of their own imagination. All the characters are made up, the plot is made up, but they're improvising the whole time and going on this quest or journey or trying to, fight the dragon with some goal in mind. It's very similar to Dungeons and Dragons.
So just like regular role playing, it's a lot of I want to say like conflict and teamwork and problem solving and all this kind of stuff. So in this case, instead of like sitting around at a table to do it, they're actually out there doing it and also what, like creating costumes and working on physical activities at the same time?
Yeah, totally. It's sort of like a choose your adventure setup where there's a story that all the characters are presented with, but then they, as themselves, as individuals, have to decide what they're going to say, where they're going to go, who they're going to act with. They're going to be faced with forks in the road where they have to save one friend or the other. And so it's all unknowable what's actually going to happen, which made filming it pretty difficult because nobody knew where anybody was going to be, what was going to happen. Kids could at any second decide to run into the middle of the woods or fight a monster or run away from the monster. So it made it tricky to film in the documentary, but also exciting because it was not predetermined what was actually going to happen.
So this organization, this camp, Wayfinder, could you guys talk about your collaboration with them and how you got, how you convinced them to partake in your documentary?
Yeah, so when we first got in touch with Wayfinder, they were hesitant at first to have a documentary, have a whole film crew there and have a documentary being made. I think most times LARPing kind of gets a bad rap that it can be made fun of very easily. People can kind of misconstrue the reasons people do it. So it took a bit of time. But we're supposed to start, real development and really get into the film starting 2020, but of course that didn't happen. So just over those years, they really got to know us. And I think a big part of developing trust with them was, of course, telling them our perspective, that we want to see the world, the camp, through the kids' eyes and really believe in all the adventures they go on. But also just really, involving ourselves and the crew in like the activities they do. We did trust exercise with them that they do at the camp. We did improv games with them. So it really, it was those conversations in pre-production, but also throughout the whole process was just really, getting ourselves involved, like when the cameras were aside and also when we were filming too.
There are so many kids at that camp. Tell us how you chose which kid to follow, which subjects, and trying to convince them to be a part of this.
Well, I'll take this one. So, I think Carina met Dexter as one of the first people that we really considered as a main character, and Dexter is just undeniably a fascinating and interesting person. And so it really did start with Dexter, and we knew that Dexter would be an incredible young person to follow. And then from there, we started trying to figure out how could we both find great characters, but also represent what happens at the camp. So we knew that we really wanted to film someone who it was going to be their first year at the camp and really go through someone's experience as a rookie. And we also knew that we wanted someone who was maybe headed towards the last part of the camp and started thinking about college and sort of thinking about this transition from being a teenager to a young adult to a college student. And so, with that sort of prism that we were looking at it, we met Cloud, who now goes by Eli, and we met Abby, and they both were amazing, incredible people in their own right, but they also represented something bigger that happens at the camp as sort of these archetypes too.
So, Alex, you mentioned there were difficulties filming at this camp. So, how did you manage to navigate through these difficulties? If I want to say, if there's so much chaos is actually going on at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's like lucky and maybe not a coincidence that Karina and I both come from guerrilla style run and gun documentaries. And so I think we're very comfortable in sort of rolling with the punches and letting scenes or character transitions present themselves. And I think that boiled down to our crew as well. Like our main DP, Peter Alton, has done pretty hardcore documentaries with us in the middle of the jungle or embedded with police. And so Pete was like ready for anything. At the same time, we wanted to elevate things, especially when it turns into the fantasy world and we're really trying to create these mini movies. So we tried to prepare as much as we could and have different cinematic tools ready to go, like anamorphic lenses and drones, but also we had to be ready to just adapt and go with the flow, whatever happened.
So in the sense, when you're filming this documentary, it was both a documentary and you were trying to get a story narrative at the same time, because I found it entertaining.
Good. Karina, take it.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you keep going.
No, I was gonna say overall there were what multiple cameras going on at the same time, or are you trying to do like one shoot at a time?
Yeah, we had 3 camera teams, and all were pretty bare bones, if you will. Like we had many people to help us spread out throughout the camp and follow different storylines, and follow each camper. But then each crew then themselves were, we tried to have a small footprint as possible, which really I think enabled us to get that balance of, we're so proud of the cinematography in this film, and our DPs did such an incredible job. So we were able to get that quality, but still respect campers' space and have a light footprint and not be so intrusive to also catch these more intimate moments.
So in the end, how did you want to handle the storytelling for this film?
Well, I think like one big motivation was to really let the subjects drive that. I think even when it gets to the fantastical elements, like Dexter is the one narrating the fantasy version too, and Dexter was the one writing in their own words the story, and then we, you know, all the other campers, Eli and Abby and everyone else, Miranda involved, they were making their own choices about what their character was going to do and what story angles that they were going to pursue. So we were really letting them drive all the creative as far as any sort of aspect goes, as far as the LARPing goes. And then yeah, but which is not that dissimilar from a documentary where you have to kind of see where your real people end up, and that's going to be better than anything you could have imagined if it was a fictional movie.
And in the end, what did you guys discovered about everyone participating in that camp?
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson I think I learned from making this whole thing and being exposed to the camp and being around so many of these young people is I was just so impressed by the safe space that the camp really creates. And I think really comes across in the film because it's just in the DNA and everything that they do. But this real foundation of trust that the camp is able to create for campers from a bunch of different backgrounds. You know, it's a neurodiverse group, it's a group of all ages, different campers with different home lives. And the camp is really able to meet everyone at that level and keep it open. And without that type of trust, there would never be that sort of imaginative play that takes a ton of trust. These kids are running out in the dark in the middle of the forest, pretending like an enemy's coming to get them, but they have to look into their enemy's eyes and know that it's, you know, all is good, and, you know, these are foam swords, and everyone's feeling safe. So I think that was a huge lesson. And I think we took a lot of pointers from the camp and let that feeling of safety really we tried to infuse it as much as we could in the making of it. And hopefully it comes across too and when you watch the film.
Most excellent. And let me wrap it up with this. I'm just curious about the both of you. Did you two also participate in any of the activities just for fun?
Yeah, we had to. I mean, I think just by the nature of us being there, they take the fantasy element really seriously, and so you know, there were points where we had to create characters as the camera crew. So I think like the first year we were ghosts, and we would actually like had a whole storyline of why we were an all-seeing ghost that didn't respond, and you know, I think it's like it's all the kids are all being so brave and they're all saying yes to everything. You know, I think we tried to take that same approach of just, yeah, let's go with it. This is not, I'm not used to being a character personally when I'm on a documentary film crew, but this is like the ethos of the camp, and we just wanted to like say yes to everything like they were, you know?
Yeah, and definitely in some of my research, I had to dress up in some costumes. So, you know, it was a very fun process, and it was really tough work getting to LARP with them.
Well, it sounded like you guys had a fun production, and it's also a fun film to watch. So, hey, congratulations for your film, We Can Be Heroes. And thank you for the lively conversation about this film. I hope everyone checks it out. Thank you very much.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much.